Welcome to this special Boat Buyer's Secret Weapon video. We are going to do a test drive, a sea trial, a demo ride on this South Bay pontoon. This is a 22-foot tri-toon with a 150 Mercury 4-stroke. It is a 2013 model. I believe the Mercury is a 2013 as well. Always a good idea to check the year of the engine, the boat, and the trailer, because it's potentially they are all different. So we are sitting here on a beautiful morning. It is nice and quiet. I wanted to come out early in the morning. It's about 6 in the morning here, and you can hopefully be able to hear all of the sounds that well, we got some fish jumping off the side there. Hopefully you can hear all of the sounds of the engine, so you know what a 4-stroke sounds like. Now they're all going to have a little bit different sound, but you'll get some of the sounds. So as you're running a boat, you'll know what they sound like. We'll run through the maneuvers. I'll talk through it a little bit as well, but also just let you hear the sounds just in case you've never been out on a boat and you don't know exactly what you're listening for. Now remember, inboard, outboard, or stern drive is going to sound different than an outboard. A 2-stroke is going to sound different than a 4-stroke. A Suzuki is going to sound a little bit different than this Mercury. So they're all going to sound a little bit different, but you'll hear some of the sounds that are similar, and I'll point them out. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to do a cold startup. All right. So you're going to get to the boat, it's sitting, it hasn't been run all day, and you're just going to fire it up. So you'll turn on your power switch, the battery switch. In this case, the South Bay has a master power on the helm. There is a battery switch in the rear that's already on. You'll need to find that on your boat. We're going to check to make sure the throttle is in neutral. We're going to check and make sure that our safety kill switch is in the on position. And we are going to start the boat up. So it's just as easy as you hear that little beep and you start up. Now that's how you want it to start up. We'll come back to the engine. A couple things I'll point out. You'll notice the little stream of water that's coming out right here. That tells us that an impeller is picking up the water, it's bringing up, and it's cooling the engine. Everything sounds nice and smooth. As a matter of fact, it's so quiet, I'm not 100% that you can hear it even. But it should be nice and quiet sounding. There shouldn't be a whole lot of sound. You can see a little bit of smoke coming out. It's a little bit cooler out this morning, so that's not concerning to me. If it's cold out, you might see that. If it's warm out and you're seeing smoke, that might be the indication of a problem, but I'm pretty good with that. You may hear a little bit of vibration on a pontoon. Some of that vibration is going to come from the engine mount, that engine pod right there. It may not be totally quiet because there could be a little bit of vibration up against that aluminum engine pod, okay? Okay, so we've idled out to open water. Now we're going to go through a few of the test maneuvers. Now we got some fishermen out here. We've got a bridge up ahead. There's docks, but we are on the main channel, so we got a nice open body of water. But do make sure that you pay attention. You're careful. You do want to listen. You do want to run through your maneuvers, but you also want to make sure that that you do anything that's dumb and cause any damage or be dangerous. So if you're not confident operating a boat yet, totally fine. These are pretty easy maneuvers to do. You can ask the owner to do them for you. You can bring a boating friend along that can help you along and do some of the listening for you, or just be very aware and be very safe with your operation. So the first thing we're going to do, we're in gear and we're just idling. We know that sounds good. Now we're going to go from an idle to full throttle, and we're going to hear how it sounds when you're taking off, okay? So we're going to go forward a little bit, and I'll show you the throttle. And we're going to put that throttle all the way down. about 5,500 RPM. And this is about 35 miles an hour. Alright, now we're going to come back as we get to the bridge. And we're going to come back to a nice comfortable 3/4 throttle, which is about right there on this boat. It's just about 4,000 RPM. And we're going to do a couple of turns. So we're going to turn to the left, turn to port, and we're going to do a nice tight turn. And we're going to feel how that feels. Now, if you did play with the trim, you want to put the trim all the way down again. And we're going to do a couple of really tight turns. So we just did starboard, or we just did port. Now we're going to go to starboard. So we're running about 3,500 RPM on this boat, maybe 4,000. Whatever's a reasonable speed to do some maneuvers. And now what we're going to do is we're going to turn hard to starboard. You're always going to check behind you. Make sure you're not turning into anybody. That's kind of your blind spot on a boat. So we're going to take that hard turn to starboard. And this pontoon, this TriToon turns really nice. Straighten it back out and go back over your own waves. And that feels real nice. We're going to do another one to port. Now, a couple of things about these turns. What you're feeling for we'll come back to neutral. What you're feeling for, this has a 150 and it has power assist, which is a hydraulic steering assist. They also, as you get up into the bigger horsepower, you may have power steering. So this one, as you're turning to port, it turns pretty easy because that goes with the natural turn of the prop. Okay, as you're turning to starboard, you're turning against the turn of the prop, and it's a little bit harder, even with the power assist, that hydraulic steering. If you have a 115 or under, you may not have any power steering. Maybe the 90 or 115 do, maybe they don't. But if you have no power steering, you're gonna have to really work to crank that wheel. That's just what it feels like without power steering or power assist. If you're on a 150 or bigger, like I said, the 150 that I have has hydraulic power assist, but you may have true power steering like you do in your vehicle, and even on a 300 or a 350, 450, that wheel is going to turn just as smooth as your car. So you're going to have 3 different levels of steering, and what you're doing is you're just feeling, does it feel smooth to you? Are you going to be happy with the way that operates? Knowing that the power steering option, the power assist like this one has with hydraulic steering, or adding a C-Star, is going to be about a $1,500 to $2,000 option. So you have to decide, am I okay cranking the wheel a little harder, or do I want to move up to that option? The true power steering option is going to be about $2,500. As you get into the bigger motors, it's going to be required, and it's going to be a main part of it. So we just went through cold startup, then you go to idle out. How does that sound? You go from idle to wide open throttle to full throttle for about a minute or so. How does that sound? You're going to come back to 3/4 throttle, and you're going to do some tight turns. That's a pretty good test drive. That took us about 5 minutes. Now here's the thing. I'm not going to be satisfied with just that, because what can happen as the engine warms up, you could have some other issues. So at this point, what you want to do is you want to just operate the boat how you think you would operate the boat. So maybe you just want to do some nice easy cruises. Great. Take that up to a nice easy cruise that you think you would be on, and just go. but you want to run the boat for a good 20 minutes, because that's where if you're going to have some issues, it'll probably pop up in that 20 minutes. Then you're also going to make sure you do your compression check. And if you have a newer engine like this, I'm going to recommend you find a technician that has the computer. You can hook it up to the computer and it'll give you a printout of all of the RPM ranges, and I'll try to find that and show it to you here in this video. But it's going to give you RPM ranges and the number of hours that the engine's been run on each of those RPM ranges. It's also going to give you any codes that the engine has thrown, and the code is just like your car. It's like a check engine light, and it will tell you what's going on. So if the engine is overheated, if the engine had something wrong with it, it'll tell you what happened. That's going to be a good indication of, okay, it's overheated multiple times. Maybe this boat wasn't as well taken care of. They didn't change the impeller like they should have. Or you see that it was run at wide open throttle for 50% of its life. Now you know that that engine has really had a lot of wear and tear on it, and it's more likely to have some repairs. If you see what most of them are, where most of the hours on the boat are run within the lower RPM bands, the 1500 to 3000 RPM, that's where 70% of this engine that I'm running, that those hours have come from in that band. So you want to, that's a good idea on some of the newer engines that are, I would say, 2000s and newer. Most of them are going to have that option to hook up to the computer. And again, a technician may charge you $100 for compression, $150 to hook it up to the computer, but now you've got a pretty good idea of how that engine was treated and run and what the history looks like. So when you make your purchase, that $250 is like an insurance policy. So we're going to run just a little bit more, and then we'll continue the boat inspection here. Take a look at the prop, take a look at the engine well, that engine pod, and I'll show you a few things to look out for there. So we will be back right after I take a little spin. Once you've idled out and you're in open water, you want to check how this engine shifts. So we're gonna listen a little bit. I'm gonna show you the controls so you see how to do it. But you're just sitting and we're in neutral. You know it's in neutral because it locks in. Some of them you may have a little lever that you even need to pull up to go into gear, but this one just sort of locks in. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put that in gear. Then we're gonna come right back to neutral. We're gonna let it sit for a second, 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna go to reverse, 1, 2, 3. And what we're listening for is that change of sound, that kind of, it almost sounds like a clunk. I'm gonna do it pointing backwards so you can try to hear that a little bit better. So, forward, 1, 2, 3, neutral, 1, 2, 3, reverse, 1, 2, 3. There's that chatter a little bit if you can hear that. That's that prop chatter on this one. Not a concern on this engine, and a common sound that you'll hear. And then neutral, 1, 2, 3. And what you're doing is you're checking how easily does it shift. Forward, 1, 2, 3. You kind of hear that little grinding. If you go right in gear real quick, you won't get that. As you go slower, I'm doing this kind of backwards with my left hand. That little grind is just the cable pulling and the engine going into forward gear or reverse gear. But that's the sound that you want, and you want it nice and easy. If you hear the engine kind of stalling out as you go in and out of gear, that's a concern that there may be something going on with that engine. Okay, so now we've gone in and out of gear. Now what we're gonna do is this a nice calm morning out here. We wanna go through some chop. So if you don't have chop to go through, you wanna feel how this handles waves. So what you can do is you can make your own chop, and I'll show you how to do that. You just go about maybe a quarter throttle. The slower you go outside idle speed, the bigger wake you'll make. And what you'll do is you'll just do a couple of donuts, and you can see those waves kind of forming. Just do a couple of donuts and some figure eights and chop that water up, and then you'll come through them a little bit. Hopefully I'm not upsetting any fisher people out here. But you'll see that we're getting it kind of stirred up here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to swing out, and we're going to cut through some of that chop that we just created. And get a sense for how this TriToon handles the chop. And most TriToons are going to do extremely well with especially if they've got the bigger 25-inch tune. So you can see we've got it stirred up a little bit. We're going to run through that, and we're actually going to intentionally hit it both ways. And that handles it pretty well. You can barely feel it. You can then come back around and go through your chop again. Remember, always paying attention to boats around you. And yes, you're trying to listen to your boat, but you also want to be safe and be courteous to other drivers. So now we're going to cut through that chop again. And you can vary your speed. And again, nice and smooth, nice and comfortable. And then we'll come back to neutral. And if I'm out here and there's other boats around, I'm going to intentionally go through the biggest chop that I can find, the roughest water I can find, so I can feel, okay, how is this boat going to handle if I'm out on a rough Saturday versus us being out here on a 6 a.m. on Wednesday morning. So a couple of things on the test drive. Pay attention to your surroundings. Listen to the boat and feel the boat with your feet. Listen for those vibrations, feel for those vibrations. That's going to be an indication that maybe there's something to check into further. And go through all of those maneuvers. And you can see I'm out here on the boat by myself. My family is still asleep as I'm doing this. But you may want to consider bringing the group of people out that are going to be on the boat with you for the most part. So if you're going to boat with the 4 in your family, put all 4 of them on the boat. See how everybody likes it. If you're going to be boating with a bunch of people, remember, the weight on the boat is going to change some of the ride characteristics, the handling characteristics, and certainly the speed that you're going to get. So at 5,500 RPMs, we were running about 35, 37 miles an hour just with me and a full cooler. If you have 6 people on the boat that are 200 pounds, a full cooler, a full load of gear, we've only got just over a quarter tank of fuel here. Well, you're going to run much slower as you're sinking further down in the water with all that weight on the boat. So remember that those characteristics are going to change as well. So now we want to go ahead and check all of the switches, everything at the helm, as we've talked about in some other videos, and why that toolkit is so important, which you can get at boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/toolkit for free, is you don't want to miss anything on the boat that may not be working properly. I'm not looking to turn you off of buying any boat. I just want you to know exactly what you're getting. And also, by going through everything at this stage, you'll know how to operate everything on your new boat so that you know what you're doing when you're out for the first time. So we're going to go through. The first accessory switch is just a blank switch, and you'll find that sometimes where the switch is there, but it doesn't operate anything. On most boats, they put all the switches on, and if you get that accessory when it's new, then they hook it up. Otherwise, they leave it just as a blank switch. So that is not uncommon. The horn You can hear that. I always recommend to have a whistle on the boat. You can get a link down below in the description for the whistle. The docking lights and the navigation and anchor light. And you can see we've already got the master power switch on. And we'll go ahead and check those lights up front. And then the stereo. And that is working good as well. You can go through all the switches. You can hook up to the audio jack. You can check the 12-volt outlet with the power cord, which we've already done here. But let's check the anchor and navigation light. The anchor light is this white light right there, 360-degree white light that needs to be operated from dusk till dawn. Maybe it's even an hour before, an hour after. And then we'll go ahead and take a look. The docking lights are operational, and then you can see the red navigation light, and this side we've got the docking light and we've got the green navigation light are all operational. So that all looks good. The only other thing that we need to check on this boat is this light right here, and there we go. That one is operational as well. So check everything, know what every switch does, know how everything operates. You can ask questions of the owner, but this one checks out. If there's anything that's not working, you got to decide, is it worth getting fixed, or do I have to fix it, or do I not care about it? So anchor light, navigation light, horn are absolute musts. Those are things that you have to have. And then you can also, while you're here, you can check the trim switch. You can hear that, and as I'm holding that down, you can see that that outboard is raising up. And that is fully operational as well. While you've got it in this position, if it's an outboard, it'll come all the way out. If it's a stern drive, you may not be able to, but you can check that prop. See if there's any dings on the prop, and everything looks good there. The skeg looks good, which is that black thing down there. That is common to have some nicks and dings in it. Not a huge deal as long as it's not broken all the way off. And they do make something called a skeg guard, which can help if you do have that issue. So everything looks good on this particular boat, and then we'll go ahead and walk through the rest of the interior. So as we're inspecting the interior, we're just looking for any mold and mildew. You can see there's a little bit of mold starting right here. That needs a good scrub, and that will come off pretty good. A little bit of wear from the cover right here on pontoons. That discoloration is very common. And again, you have to decide based on the price that they're asking and that you can pay for the boat. If you want a great way to get the lowest price for any boat, go to boatbuyersecretweapon.com/save and check that out. But decide for yourself, is that okay for the price that that you're going to pay for the boat. I do encourage you to open every single locker, take everything out, see if there's anything hidden. You want to check the hinges, make sure that all the screws are good, make sure that all the backings on the seat are good, and just check everywhere, every little nook and cranny of the boat on the interior, so you know exactly what storage you have, how everything works. Sit in every seat. So this seat right here, when we sit in it, we find that it's a little bit off kilter, and that's something we got to decide. Okay, are we going to be okay with that, or do we need to replace that seat? The other thing you want to check is all of the seat bases. Make sure that those are all firm and in place, and that that's not maybe an indication that it's loose and there's a rotted floor or some flooring issue. Check all the gates, everything open properly, and does everything look the way that it should. If you have an in-floor ski locker, on some of the TriToons there'll be a in-floor locker. Make sure that that bilge pump works, and then also under the helm you'll maybe find the table, which on this boat goes right there. That little center cap comes off and the table will fit in there. And you can also check up in here for the wiring. See if there's anything that looks suspicious. looks off in there. And there's a lot of times just a rat nest of wiring and you can't tell a whole lot, especially on some of the older boats or if they've done any work on it themselves. But at least you want to check and you want to see if there's anything that really jumps out at you as an issue. If you have a bimini top and canvas, I encourage you to check that. These bimini tops can be $1,000 to $2,000 to repair and replace. So you kind of want to shake it around, check to make sure that there's no seams ripping, no tears, nothing that's going to be other than, you know, a little bit of dirt, some wasp nests that need to be broken off. That will all clean up good. All the zippers look good. All of the bracing and bracket look good. And I think we're in pretty good shape on this one. Here we are in the transom of the boat, and this is where you really want to inspect for rust and corrosion, especially with saltwater use. And you also want to inspect this motor pod right back there. You want to check, this is where it's common to see cracks and broken welds. It's where vibrations will come from. It can be a very expensive repairs. So you definitely want to look at that. It's difficult to see everything on the water. So you want to make sure you pull this out, and we'll also look underneath it when we get it back on the lift. But you're checking for all of the fuel lines, making sure that they're still nice, soft, and supple. You don't see any corrosion, you don't see any wear. And then you can see, I talked about the C-Star Power Assist. That's the hydraulic steering assist. And you can see it's right there, that little orange thing, and the silver bars that that help make steering a little bit easier on this boat. And then that fuel cell on this particular one, you can actually see pretty well. There may be a fuel water separator, which is just a little canister that will run to the fuel line. This one doesn't have that option, but that's another place that you want to check for rust and corrosion. And then you have your ladder, which you want to flip that down and test to make sure that looks good. And then check all of your cleats, that they're nice and secure. And then all of the corner caps, or however the corners are, that's a common place for damage. So you want to look underneath and make sure that all is secure. So that is the walkthrough on this TriToon with the 150. Hope it was helpful. Again, go to boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/toolkit to grab your free toolkit. And to ensure you don't overpay for your next boat after you make sure it's the perfect boat, go to boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/save and check out the video there. Thanks for watching. Make sure you comment, like the video, and share it with all your boating friends that may be considering a new or used pontoon or TriToon. Thanks a lot, everybody.